So I'm going to start with some very basic facts. Let's look at this series. Nick Saban versus LSU, while Nick Saban is the head coach of Alabama. 2007, inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, Nick Saban is overmatched against a very, very good LSU team. Alabama has a lead in the fourth quarter in that game before LSU scores 14 straight and wins that game. Okay? 2008, in Tiger Stadium, Alabama rolls in unbeaten and knocks off LSU in overtime. 2009, Alabama at home. They get the screen pass to Julio, the Patrick Peterson interception that was but didn't count. Alabama wins. 2010 in LSU. The tight end reverse takes some stones to run a reverse to a tight end, but Les Miles dials it up. He eats the grass. Remember, that's the first time he ate the grass. And LSU gets out of there with a win at home. 2011, we know what happened. 9-6 in overtime in Bryant-Denny. Neutral site, if you want to call it neutral site, in New Orleans. Alabama wins the national championship. 2012, Alabama goes down to LSU. Late screen pass to TJ Yeldon. They knock off Zach Mettenberger. 2013, Alabama comes home. Remember, it's the dinosaur guy. Remember the dinosaur dance, McMoney?
Do I remember the dinosaur? What kind of question is that?
I'm just making sure you're on your toes, brother.
Either him or Nick Saban.
It's him. He did it first.
Yeah. Nick Saban copied him.
Yes, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So dinosaur guy, and Alabama wins. 2014, Alabama goes down to the Bayou again. Blake Sims pulls out a late win. 2015, Alabama's comfortably ahead, gives up a late fumble by Derrick Henry and a touchdown that cuts it to a 14-point margin of victory, but that game was well in hand. What do all those games have in common? Well, a subset of all those games is, think about all those games at LSU. 2008 overtime. 2010, LSU wins. 2012, Alabama gets outplayed. Think about that 2012 game. I wrote a story from that game from the stands. I wasn't in a press box. I wrote a story about sitting in the Alabama in the section in the upper deck in that game. I was there, experienced it. Was around all the fans. That game in the second half, Alabama did absolutely nothing. Nothing offensively. Nothing. They were horrible until Alabama gets the ball back and LSU starts playing off coverage. And A.J. McCarron finds Kevin Norwood for like 3 straight completions. They get it down. Screen pass to TJ Yeldon. They win. Okay? So 8, we got overtime. 2010, Alabama lost. 2012, Alabama had a better team. Gets outplayed. Very lucky to get out of there with a win. 2014, Alabama goes in with a better team. The best wide receiver in the country. Good defense. Alabama gets outplayed again. And LSU gives them a gift. They give them a couple of gifts. TJ Yeldon fumbles inside his own 20 with 1 or 2 minutes left in the game. LSU then gets a personal foul, I believe, or a hold. And I think it was a personal foul that backed them up and made a touchdown pretty much an improbability. So they settled for a field goal. Okay, so that was gift number 1 by LSU, is committing the personal foul penalty. Gift number 2 is on the subsequent kickoff. They kicked it out of bounds. That's gift number 2. And then Blake Sims, I think, scrambled on 3rd down a couple times, picked up a first down, threw a key completion, I can't remember, on the right sideline, got Alabama within field goal range. Adam Griffin miraculously made one. And Alabama goes to overtime. And in overtime, the first play of overtime, Alabama runs the kind of trick play to tight end Brandon Green, who they thought was a tackle. He gets it all the way down to the 1. Then Alabama runs the rub route, kind of a pick play. They score a touchdown, and they hold LSU on 4 plays. They win that game. Point being, Alabama has gone down to LSU the last 4 trips as the better team. Sometimes, like, it was obvious they had the better team. And they went to overtime twice, and they lost once. Point being, LSU has all kinds of talent. And I'm just looking at past history thinking, this isn't going to be easy. This is a tough game. And I haven't even thrown in the fact that Alabama is so young in its skill position players on offense. Jalen Hurts, Damian Harris, Bo Scarborough, Josh Jacobs. Where they're not inexperienced is wide receiver and tight end. But you got to have someone to throw you the ball. And those throws aren't happening down the field. So the way I'm looking at this game, the first thing I look at is the environment. And I look at what Alabama's taken to LSU the last 4 times and how they've performed. That's the first thing I look at. And then I start breaking down individual matchups. And here's where the first thing that comes to mind. If you're Jeremy Pruitt today and in those coaches' meetings with your defensive staff and you're game planning to stop LSU, what does that game plan consist of? It's in rocket science, right? This is not rocket science. It's pretty obvious. The first thing you have to do is to stop Leonard Fournette, right? That seems fairly obvious. Fournette has not had the season that many of us thought he would have because he's been banged up a little bit, right? I mean, he dealt with an ankle injury. He's been banged up, but he's fully healthy now. But he also has Darius Geis, who's burst on the scene this year, a sophomore running back who's playing pretty well. And you know what we do on this show. We put things into context. We talk about stats. Here are a couple stats for you. McMoney, trivia question for you. Who do you think leads the SEC in rushing yards per carry?
Yards per carry?
Yards per attempt. Yards per rush. Who is number 1 in the SEC?
That's a good one. I'm going to go with Damian Harris.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. Tell him what he's won, Bob.
A pat on the back.
Good job, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
Guess who's number 2 in the SEC in yards per carry?
Yards per carry. Let's see here. Let's run through.
Now, I should say this. This is to qualify for this list. A player must have played in 75% of his games and have a minimum rushing attempts of 4 a game. So Fournette's not actually on this list because he's missed so many games. But number 2 is Darius Geis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So here's this matchup, and if you're looking at yards per carry, Damian Harris averages 8.01 yards per attempt. Darius Geis is 7.96. they have a true 1-2 punch at LSU. Am I being too hard if I say I don't think Alabama has a 1-2 punch so far? Is that being not fair, or is that because I've struggled with this in trying to categorize it, because it's not. I guess it's difficult this year because it doesn't look like it did in years past. Maybe they do, but if the 1-2 punch, if Alabama has one this year, you know who it is. It's Damian Harris and Jalen Hurts. That's your 1-2 punch.
I would consider it a 1, 2A, 2B, 2C punch.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Now, in that, are you throwing Jalen in there too?
Yeah, Jalen and Jacobs and Scarborough.
Right.
All with the 2A, 2B, 2C.
Now, if you want to throw Leonard Fournette into this, he's only played in 4 games, but he's averaging 8.1 yards per carry. So this game will feature the top 3 yards per carry guys in the SEC. Oh, and by the way, Josh Jacobs is number 5. I guess if you throw Leonard in there, that would make him number 6. And Bo Scarborough would be number 12. Jalen Hurts, even with the sack yardage, would be in the top 20.
Which still makes no sense, but whatever.
Yeah, we're not. Well, you know what? We're going to be old and gray one day, McMoney. And you're going to be the mayor of Athens, Alabama.
Whoa, all 7 people.
And you're going to call into my talk show, and we're going to be talking about how that stat makes no sense. That's what we're going to be doing. I don't feel like Alabama has a 1-2 punch like LSU does with Fournette and Geis, but they have a 1, which is clearly Damian Harris. Maybe they just have 2 number 1s, because Jalen Hurts and the way they use him is a threat.